Hello everyone! In this video, we will be checking out the recently released Vanguard D Start Deck 06, Minae Mirei, Hōen no Miko, or in English, Mirei Minae, Sealed Blaze Maiden. Instead of the usual unboxing, we will be trying out something new. We will be doing a brief introduction of the right line for this deck. We will also be looking at certain cards from the Start Deck, as well as from the older booster sets that we feel will synergize well with this deck. Now let us get into it.
The grade 0 has the generic effect of drawing a card. However, the grade 1 is name dependent, so you will have to run this grade 0 instead of any other grade 0. This is the grade 1. So the grade 1 allows you to filter card when you write it on the Vanguard circle. So like I mentioned earlier, it's name dependent, so you need to go blast that grade 0. It allows you to tutor specific arm orders, the sword and the shield. So you must ensure that you run at least one copy of either the sword and the shield at the deck. But for now, since there are no other arm orders, this is not an issue. The secondary effect plus 2000 when it attacks. Quite useful because it always tank hit attacker. The grade 3's effect, where you can call back any grade 1 from the drop zone, this is always hard to have. Grade 2. The grade 2 allows you to take an arms card back drop zone. So if you have too many arms card in your hand, you can drop it early, and you can also retrieve it back. It's a bit similar to the Doga right line. So this is essentially a free right arm. Grade 3, the main cannon of the deck, essentially. First bit of the effect allows you to soul charge 1 and call back any grade 1, right? So most of the time you want to be running grade 1s in this deck that have very useful effects. Grade 1s that retire themselves for better effects, or grade 1s that are beaters. So very useful to constantly have something on the field that allows you to pressure your opponent. Soul charging also provides Soul Blast essentially for its secondary effect. So when this card is double armed Soul Blast 2, you get to retire your opponent's front row, card gets +1 critical. This is usually used to finish your opponent. However, this is a lot like Bruce, where this effect can only be activated the 4th turn. The turn after you write into this, basically, because you can only play one order turn. Okay, so now I'll be talking about some of the other cards in this start deck. These are all support cards for the right chain. The grade 3 for this start deck. It allows you to retrieve an arms card from drop zone at the cost of a single counter. This is mostly used late game, and after you've used the back of the arm sword, you want to retrieve it back in case you don't have other arm sword, to ensure that you're always double arm. The grade 1. It allows you to filter through your deck by discarding an arms card, and you get to draw one. This is useful early game, especially. It works very well with the grade 3, because you can drop your early arms card for guard or for specific pieces that you need at the deck. So the main effects for the deck is the arm orders, right? So first one will be arm sword. Arm sword allows you to Soul Blast to equip this, and when your Vanguard attacks, it gets 10,000 power. And at the end of the battle, you can counter blast 2. If your opponent is at 4 or less damage, right, you get to deal 1 damage. So this is very important for pushing your opponent to 5 damage to ensure that they have to guard the next round of attacks. And at 5 damage, it works very well with your a double arm Vanguard effect, where your Vanguard gets +1 critical, right? So they have to guard it, or they run the risk of losing. or unless they are agreed on. Last arm order in this deck, the arm shield. At the cost of a single counterblast, you get to equip this shield. It's essentially a 10k card every turn, so this is extremely defensive. Very useful for decks that doing unboosted, because this is essentially a free now attack or one attack. And because it's a once per turn effect, you get to choose when you trigger this. Okay, so now I'll be talking about some of the other boosting cards from set 1 to 3. There's definitely a lot of cards that synergize very well with the deck, but I'll be talking about 4 of these that I feel are more notable, and these are effects that I feel that would essentially bring this deck to another level. So firstly, Capture Festival. I feel like decks that have retire effects will generally like Capture Festival, because Capture Festival, it will always allow you to draw whenever you retire, right? So our arm allows you to retire 2 of your opponent's front row rear guards. So this means that you get to draw 2 for playing this order. The only drawback with running this is that firstly it requires you to be double armed, right? So this will be an extremely late game card because it's also an order. So it will only be usable on the 5th turn onwards. Secondly, it's the grade 3 order, so this means that you have no guard value when you run this card. If you do run it, it's probably going to be a one-off, in favor of probably other arm orders in future. Next one, Twin Strike Orlando. This card I feel synergizes very well with the Vanguard effect. The Vanguard allows you to call a grade 1 back from the drop. You can Soul Blast this card out from the Soul, or this card's own effect allows you to put this card into the Soul to give your Vanguard 5000 power. So you can have a stronger Vanguard line with this card, Soul Blast this out, call it back to the field with the Vanguard effect. The second effect also, when you retire a unit, you get to call this card out. So if you need a booster that's inside the Soul, you can call this card out anytime. Like this card has quite a lot of synergy with the Vanguard effect. Of course, any deck that requires counterblast heavy effects, so like Gojo. Gojo's effect, when you boost the Vanguard and the attack hits, you get to retire this card and unflip one. Unflipping is always good for this deck because the Sport's counterblast effect is 2 counterblast and it's quite heavy. And because this deck, the main Vanguard effect allows you to recall a grade 1 from the drop, right? So you can constantly recall this from the drop. This will mean that you can run minimal copies of this and you will still be able to successfully use this effect constantly. It will ensure that you have enough counterblasts. Lastly, Feel Tensha State. Everybody knows this. It's 1 counterblast. You get to Persona right the next turn, right? There's a lot of pressure on this card. To boost the Vanguard, your opponent has to guard the Vanguard, because if not, they run the risk of facing stronger rolls the next turn with Persona right. And you can run minimal copies of this, like I said, same as Gojo, right? Because the Vanguard allows you to revive this from the drop zone. So this means that your opponent, if they allow the attack from this boost to go through, then they will always run the risk of facing Persona right the next. Persona is definitely going to be hard to guard, plus if you are double armed, facing critical on the Vanguard is going to be very hard to guard.
We look forward to the new cards that will be introduced to boost this deck in Booster Set 04, Kakusei Suru Tenrin, or in English, Awakening of Chakrabarti, scheduled to be released on 24th December 2021 for the Japanese version. With that, we have come to the end of this video. Do let us know what you think of this new format by leaving a comment in the comment section. We hope you enjoy our video and see you next time. Bye bye.